The very first Monday in the month of June. Officially, we're almost midway through 2025. Good morning and a warm welcome to your perfect day starter, the morning brief. I'm Kayode Okikelu.
And I'm Jeffrey Uzoma. 2 days already, right down the line. And we'll begin to count to the very first half of the year. So at the end of the month of June, it's going to be one half of 2025 gone. So I hope you're preparing for everything you planned for the year. And I wish you the very best. But we'll do our best as well to bring you up to speed with the big things we're tracking as far as the policy is concerned. Kayode.
Oh, yes, it's been raining cats and dogs here in Lagos. And, you know, on a typical rainy day, Jeffrey, all you need is your umbrella, something warm to get by. But, you know, things are way more complicated for the people of Mokwa in Niger State. That's north-central Nigeria, where over 153 people have lost their lives as a result of flooding. It was meant to be just another day of rainfall, Wednesday/Thursday. But my goodness, the people woke up to very, very sad sights. The situation, I must say, is dire. Over 153 people died as a result of that flooding. And the sad part, even much more sad, is the fact that the death toll is still rising. The rescuers keep finding deceased from time to time. And this situation was made worse by a number of things. One, the government says a lot of houses were built on the floodplains. That's on the one hand. Secondly, there were a group of travelers who were taking refuge at the Mokwa Mosque, right? So they just thought, let's stay over, right? And we'll continue our journey. And we understand that naturally increased the death toll. The last time we saw something, just a percentage of this was in Borno State with the Lagdo Dam situation. But that was way less than this. And our hearts and prayers go out to the people of Mokwa in Niger State, but much more than that. We need to find out the root cause of this, because some of the people suspect that this may have been water release. You know, there's a Kainji Dam, there's a Jeba as well before you get to the River Niger, which is south of Niger State. So there's still questions about what exactly is playing out here, but it's a very, very sad day, or sad past few days for the people of Niger State.
It's really hard to know what to say and what not to say, but just seeing all of this natural disaster, or whether it is natural disaster, we do not know. But at least there's a flood that has killed about 153 people. And perhaps those numbers, they're expected to rise in the coming days, because as I said yesterday, that's when we got about 153. Just imagine 153 persons no longer in this world for perhaps things that could have been avoided if people are properly evacuated and all of this. So on one hand, there has to be political will in that sense. I'm sure that the prediction people, the meteorologists, to do their job to tell people to say, okay, the government, this is coming. I know earlier that I talked about some of these things, about issues around flooding, that states will be affected in one way or the other. But I do not know why some of these persons were evacuated. We know sometimes it's out of control. But on the other hand, sometimes it's difficult to believe that the situation wouldn't have been managed better. This is where government comes in to help as much as possible so that we do not record casualties such that we've recorded today. So first and foremost, our hearts, our thoughts, and our prayers are with the people, the families that have been affected, whose families are no longer with them. And then government must take a lot of responsibility in ensuring that this doesn't happen again. To have 153 carried in one fell swoop is not a joke, it's not war, it's not any of these things. So I do not know whether they didn't heed the call to evacuate, whether there are calls for evacuation. Those are some of the questions that will be answered today on the program.
Definitely, and that's where we're starting off from, naturally, troubleshooting that sad event. It's perhaps an unofficial national day of mourning here in Nigeria. So we're starting off with the remote, immediate causes, and then the humanitarian situation in Niger State. That's our very first topic on the program this morning. We'll be speaking with the acting director of the Niger State Emergency Management Agency to find out how the agency is intensifying efforts to perhaps rescue more people, to ensure that the ones who are left without homes, without shelter, without food are catered to. The federal government sent a delegation to Minado, not Mokwa, but some pronouncements were made. Thousands of bags of rice. The Primary Healthcare Development Authority meant to set up some sort of position there to cater to the health needs. All of those things, have they come through? Those are the questions we'll be asking, and how do we prevent future reoccurrence?
It's so sad to look at these pictures, and even worse, to think about the casualties that have been recorded. But away from that, we'll take a look at making choices when it comes to election. Already, across political lines, they are already doing what they know how to do, permutating ahead of 2027. But this is actually looking at the scorecard on who benefits the most. The government has said the twin policies are necessary. Some are saying it's brave. Some are saying, yeah, we would have done it, but differently. But whatever side or whichever side you belong to, today we're looking at 2 years after the Tinubu administration's decision to remove subsidies from as many things that have subsidies, not just PMS, but electricity, as well as FX. How well has it done, and how is it affecting you and I? You have your answers, they have their answers, right here on the program.
Absolutely. And of course, the average politician is looking to the next election cycle. And you see, some of the second-term governors are already shopping in that sense for their successors. What should guide the leadership recruitment process? The Senate President made a statement over the weekend to the second-term governors on how they should choose. But where do the people come in? Where do you and I come in this leadership recruitment process? We'll also be troubleshooting all of that on the program this morning.
Absolutely. So just join us as we look at all the big issues as far as the polity and the politics is concerned. From issues around the environment and the flood disaster, as well as issues that has to do with governance and politics. It's a potpourri of conversation right here. But don't forget, you can be part of it. All you have to do, CTV Morning Brief is a hashtag on social media. That's on X. You can also reach us on our email. We get those emails, we see them as much as we can. We respond. I will continue to do better with the responses and feedback. You also reach us via WhatsApp as well. All of these numbers at some point, and these addresses will be scrolling on the screen for you to make the most of it right here on the program on the Morning Brief.
Oh, yes. So it is a packed show that we have for you, giving you a healthy dose of all of the happenings that you need to know about, and you need to get informed. We'll take a moment now, and when we return, we're back with the front pages. How do they reflect the happenings over the weekend? That's our next port of call. Stay with us. So let's start off with the Abuja Inquirer. The Abuja Inquirer leads with two sad events that played out over the weekend. Yes, we've touched on the situation in Niger State, but Kano athletes who are returning from the National Sports Festival, Ogun 2024, were involved in a fatal accident. And you see there on the front page, flood of grief for Kano athletes, muted sorrow for Mokwa disaster. President, National Assembly, governors, others mourn Kano 22, whimpers for Mokwa 153 flood victims. So that sort of captures some of the sad events from over the weekend in Nigeria. And we have joining us to walk through some of the front pages eventually Senior Advocate Sam Kagbo. But I mean, take a look at just how the Abuja Inquirer captures this story here. Flood of grief for Kano athletes, muted sorrow for Mokwa disaster.
It was just heartbreaking to see. I didn't even know. I was just watching the PSG Inter Milan highlights of the match. But guys, and I heard that the people who have, gone to Ogun State for the National Sports Festival, Ogun Games, or Gateway Games as it's called. That's on their way. We're not sure what happened. Was the driver overspeeding? Was it fatigue because he was on the road for about 2 days or so? They left on Thursday after the games, and this happened on Saturday. I heard they were just hours away from Kano, and this is just heartbreaking to read as well. We don't know. Sometimes it's just difficult on what to say than to just share your prayers and your thoughts with the families of those affected. But let's go to the Vanguard newspaper. The Vanguard newspaper leads with something totally different. It says, FG's gas-powered vehicle scheme runs into major hitch nationwide. 785.6 billion naira investment threatened. Let's take a look at the riders to give us a bit of insight. But if you want to read more, you can go to page 19 of the Vanguard newspaper. Refuel stations, conversion centers, other facilities grossly inadequate. CNG buses, other equipment rot in parking lots. Current pain is temporary. Presidential CNG initiative. This temporary. I think we need to remind the government, well, on this, it's great to have this idea that we need to diversify our energy mix. I think it's great to have it, but efficiency and effectiveness, or the right word that they use is level of penetration, is insufficient to compete with what the effect of PMS, subsidy removal on PMS has done. Because if we had enough CNG stations and all of this conversion kit, maybe on a 40-60 basis, before all of this started, we can have this conversation. But grossly inadequate is grossly inadequate. So they should do something as quickly as possible and stop touting this temporary pain. It's painful to hear. Sometimes when we talk to the people in the ruling party or their representative, they gloss over that temporary, like the cost. We need to look at the cost of that temporary pain, so that the government can understand what's really going on, so that they are not detached from data. Because it's easy to say it's a temporary pain, it's going to get better. People are losing jobs, people are struggling to eat and survive. Businesses, a lot of small businesses are struggling to survive. Big businesses, some are closing down. So we can go on and on and on and on. But we'll get to that conversation somehow. Yeah. But this slang of temporary pain, I think is becoming, let me use their own word, it's a cliche. Look for something else to say.
Certainly, and I think beyond just the usual temporary pain, bear with us, we don't take your patience for granted, is proper explainers, right? And be accountable to the people. Explain to them, and I think it's a no-brainer, really. In places you've maybe made mistakes or you probably didn't factor all of the entire picture, you can always say, well, we underestimated the situation, or at least we planned for it, but man proposes, God disposes.
Clearly, I think this government underestimated the social cost and impact of the policy. As we always say, if the fundamental legacy issues are not sorted, anti-corruption is not as aggressive as possible, things like the rule of law and productivity is not put in place, all of this effort to give it 10 years is not going to work. What is really working sometimes, some things are going well, but what is really working is the resilience of Nigerians. Even if you make the situation worse for Nigerians just have a way of surviving. I don't think it's a good thing. Nigerians need to stand up and ask questions. The social cost of the policy is very deep, it's very painful. So I think it's almost disrespectful to always come and say, temporary pain. And they want to gloss over that statement as though it's nothing serious. It is very serious.
So these are the issues with the CNG. It's meant to be an alternative to petrol, right? Since petrol is quite expensive, more than it used to be, that is. So what is expected is that there will be at least lots of CNG conversion centers. It's meant to be affordable to a large extent. And then you need to have places where you can refuel your converted vehicles or tricycles. Oh, guess what? Even the NRC, that's the Railway Corporation, is looking to CNG to power the trains. So imagine a lot of demand for CNG. But what we have so far, not as much CNG fueling centers. If you're coming into Lagos, you see a station that there's a lot of queue. Same if you're coming into Abuja from the airport, you see some of those trucks lined up already, dozens of them overnight just trying to get CNG, and their vehicles as well trying to get CNG. Then the cost of the conversion itself is a big deal. So there's a lot of issues. Now, this is not to give an excuse for the government, but for India, by the way, India is also looking at CNG, and it's been on for about 10 years plus now, and India has been able to grow its CNG centers from over 700 in 2014 to more than 7,000 now today. So how far have we gone in the sense of, okay, 1 year, 2 years? Have we gone that far? At least considerably? Certainly not, but we should do better, and that's what the Vanguard is pointing to this morning. A couple of other stories on the front page of the Guardian, Jeffrey. You can see 50 killed, 15 parishes shot by armed herders in Makurdi diocese. That's coming from Catholic priests. A lot to wrap your head around, certainly, this morning. But that's the front page of the Vanguard newspaper today.
Okay, Kyle, I think we'll go to the Guardian newspaper.
Yeah.
The Guardian newspaper is leading with a huge political conversation. 2027 opposition coalition shops for candidate as APC mocks effort. Opposition coalition shops for candidate as APC mocks effort. I think this is how all of this starts. It's a very difficult thing in Nigeria, except what we saw in 2015, to unseat an incumbent. I think I'll stay where I started off from. When it comes to 2027, it's going to be more of the people against the ruling party, because as we speak now, the opposition, let's use PDP and Labour Party, haven't gotten their acts together. I think it's even worse with the Labour Party that has two sets of leadership, a caretaker and the Abure-led leadership. So all of this coalition is a collective of amongst these political parties. So you have some people in Labour Party being part of the coalition, perhaps some people in the PDP being part of the coalition. Not everybody is on board. So how this will play out. So I can understand why the APC who are mocking them, maybe mocking them according to the headline of the Guardian newspaper. But in politics, you don't underrate anybody. It's a very tricky, slippery game that anything can happen. And what happened in 2015, nobody would have seen it coming, because this is an incumbent. 5 governors walked out on their own governor. The president, who was a member of their party. For me, that was the icebreaker. That was what took Jonathan out, the former president Jonathan, with Amechi and his 4 friends who are governors. That coalition led out. I don't think that APC would have been in power without that level of movement from those guys. So, and now again, we're seeing that collective coming together. Amechi is now in the mix. Rotimi Amechi, former governor of Rivers State. We have Nasser El-Rufai, who was part of the formation of the APC as well in 2015. Atiku Abubakar was part of the formation of the APC. So it looks like it's a cycle, Kyrie. They have all now come around to say, we don't believe that the Tinubu administration is doing well. We're going to do all we can to kick him out of power. But they first need to get their acts together, get a clearer direction. It's 2 years down the line until the election. But Nigerians know what they want, how they want it. Whether they're able to force, to insist on what they want is a different kettle of fish altogether. But it's too early to dismiss a coalition, because anything can happen in politics. Anything can happen in politics. But let's see how it goes. But I believe that we need, I'm not even talking about the coalition. Yeah. We need a viable opposition. Let's even forget the coalition. We need a viable opposition. There should never be a time in Nigeria's history when there will be that overwhelming dominance of one political party over the others, that we don't have an alternative. It's dangerous for democracy, especially our kind of democracy, the type we practice now. Even with what we have, we're still having this issue. So imagine if they have a clean slate to run. This is not 2017 when PDP had 31 or so governors out of the 36 states. Right now, we need as much as possible on at least 2 political parties to be strong enough to hold each other down, so that there's a quick alternative in case one is not performing well. Kyrie.
Oh, yes, certainly. So you can tell what the future is like sometimes from what you can see today. How well have they been able to get their acts together? Well, we'll see in the coming days. And of course, this is going to form a major part of our conversation on the program this morning. But take a look at that other story. It's a response from the presidency to Afenifere saying, economy not in crisis, says presidency, as Afenifere rates Tinubu low. It's a page 3 read. Definitely a lot of people rating President Tinubu's administration, and there have been responses as well. And Afenifere is one of the latest to review the president's 2 years in office. In a statement that was released by its leader, National Publicity Secretary Oladipo Olaito and Justice Faloye, saying that it has shown that every human development and social political index has regressed in the past 2 years. So there you go. That's from the Afenifere this morning. I should just mention that Saudi Arabia evicts 205,000 unauthorized pilgrims from Mecca. That's something, it's quite curious. If you want more details, check page 2 of The Guardian. We have joining us now Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Sam Kagbo, to just take a look at some of the stories that have made the front pages today. Senior Advocate, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, and thank you for having me this morning.
Oh, it's good to have you on the program, Senior Advocate. Let's just talk about the front page of The Guardian. Opposition coalition shopping for candidate as APC mocks effort. Page 6 of The Guardian. And Jeffrey had said, do not underestimate anyone. It's almost like football. You know, there are no minnows in that sense. So when you see the APC mocking the efforts and what you see what's playing out in the coalition, so to speak, some saying, well, the coalition I'm forming is against poverty, hunger. Another saying, well, we're going to make this work. So you have mixed signals from those who are meant to be the leaders of these coalitions. What do you make of it, Senior Advocate?
Well, let me start by saying that the political aides who are making who are mocking the opposition are doing their job. That's their job, to deleverage or demarket the opposition. But like you rightly said, political measurements are very difficult to calculate, and it's very difficult for you to predict. In politics, you can't talk in absolute terms. Anything can happen overnight. A day is too long in politics. So I would think that, yes, for now, the opposition is having a difficult one because many of their own leaders, those who are actually spearheading the coalition, each one of them will want to be a presidential candidate. And that's where the problem will be. Because you see them trying to cut Peter Obi. Of course, Peter Obi already has a number. In the last election, he had about 6 million votes. In politics, that's a good number because democracy, or whatever you call it, is about numbers. And if you already have one candidate who has that number, he is a bright. But there is also the realization that Peter Obi cannot by himself, transcend and actually withstand the spread of the APC. So the mix here is going to be difficult. Each one of them would want to have a mix between one and Peter Obi. I think Peter Obi will be the constant, while the others will now be thinking of in what mix would they come to challenge the APC. I would also think that the APC, even though the political aides who are making the mockery are sounding so confident, I would think that with the experience of Tinubu and, of course, the chairman of APC, they will be working overnight, knowing that, yes, from their own experience, the coalition can actually make a difference.
I was just reading some excerpt where somebody was raising, if you look at the pages of that paper, somebody was actually talking about the coalition proponent must be altruistic and they must be strategic, really ready to make compromises as much as possible, not everybody trying to be the leader in that sense. But let's move on to the Blueprint newspaper, Senior Advocate. It leads with a different headline altogether. This should be, I think, Ogun Free Trade Zone. Attracted $24 billion investment, $30 billion commitment under Tinubu. Says we're reaping dividends of purposeful leadership. That's coming from the managing director of the Free Trade Authority, Bamanga Usman Jada, described the President Bola Tinubu as a blessing to Nigeria. Senior advocate.
Yeah, you know, the Oil and Gas Free Zone Authority, it comprises, I think, about 6 states. You have Akwa Ibom, Rivers, Imo, Lagos, and about 6 of them. And over time, the oil and gas has always been the most attractive investment destination for Nigeria. And it is good that there is a diversification here, because gas is becoming much more attractive now than even the other component of the oil and gas industry. Now that you are having that volume of investment, and there is also the promise that in the next 2 years you would have about another 30 billion coming into that sector. That, to me, is encouraging. It's a potent diversification, and it also portends that the economy would be jigged up, and the multiplier effect of that is that there will be employment, and the government, of course, would have more earnings. I would also think that the more of the states who are willing to provide infrastructure for this sort of investment, they should know that it is not just for you to have a gas-free zone. There is also the other component of it, the linkages. For an example, it is actually ironical that you do not have a very good road between Akwa Ibom and River State, or between River State and Cross River, or between Akwa Ibom and Cross River. But these are very good component and very strategic component of that sector. Right. If you do not have a very good infrastructure linking this, and of course, linking them to Lagos, it's going to be difficult. Perhaps that Lagos-Calabar road is going to be an answer to some of these concerns that I'm raising. But to sum up, it's a very encouraging thing, and I would think that those who have not yet done or provided land and infrastructure for that sector should take a cue from what is happening, because that's a very, very troubled sector.
Right. Well, Senior Advocate, when the chips are down, what a lot of people want to hear is, are we able to hit 2 million barrels per day, or at least 2.5 million barrels per day, seeing that the price is not very stable? But at least that's the target the government has set, 2.5 million by the end of the year. Are we able to hit that? And of course, all the other 10 states plus one now, you know, Bauchi State with Komani as well. We should be able to harness all of the potential and ensure that it really shows, as the young people say, show the workings. But we have to thank you so much, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Sam Karbo, for providing the much-needed insights into some of the top stories on the front page this morning. Thank you for your time, and wish you a great day ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Well, we'll take a quick break now, and when we return, we start off with that very sad situation in Niger State, particularly in Mokwa, where over 153 people have been killed by flooding. We're going to touch base with the State Emergency Management Authority to find out what exactly is going on. Stay with us.
Welcome back. This weekend was quite painful, especially for the people of Niger State and Kano State. From Kano, we had that incident where the athlete from the Gateway Games in Ogun State were heading back home, and sadly they had an accident. 22 athletes died. But in Niger State, there was a flood disaster. And right now, as we speak, the death toll, so the last count was about 153 persons confirmed dead. We've been joining the program to bring us up to speed as to what happened, what is happening, and what is expected to happen. The acting director, Niger State Emergency Management Agency, Dr. Ibrahim Hussaini, joins us from Niger State. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on the program. If you can hear me, sir, good morning. Okay, let's see what we can do to make sure you can. Okay, can you hear me now, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Absolutely fantastic. So just help us bring us up to speed before we go back to what led to this, because there are so many angles to it. What is the situation now? The last time we know about the death toll, it was about 153. Are there additional casualties in that sense? And what do you have as the latest information for us before we deep dive into the conversation?
The figures have not changed, but this morning we are already out trying to get our contact because the distance, the river flows into River Niger. So the people at the downstream of River Niger, we have engaged them, the divers there and the local communities within the banks of the river. We've been talking to them, following up on what the situation is. But for now, we have not had any report of any recovery. The numbers still stand at 153. And relief assistance have already been given to them. It's already in process. People are coming in numbers to come and assist the government because the government has declared and also open an account where you can lodge any money or if you have any relief assistance to take. The committee is already in place to receive your relief assistance and document it and also pass it to the affected persons. Because the magnitude is large, the people that are displaced is also large. We have a very big number. So we are calling on all well-meaning Nigerians, individual philanthropists, our international partners to come to the head of the state government because this is a very big situation.
All right. I know that NEMA, for instance, is in charge of, let's say, when the thing has happened, reacting to incidents in that sense. But from what you gathered, what exactly is the cause? Is it just rainfall? Was there a dam release? Give us all the details that you're aware of as to what led to this. Just a moment. And also tell us whether there were some kind of warning for evacuation in that sense and whether or not people heeded to the call.
All right, it is very surprising. This thing has not happened before, and this is an interland, not a lowland where you have any river very close by. Rivers close to that place that are more than 20 or so kilometers to that environment. So this water just came from a particular environment to that place because that day before the incident, there was torrential rainfall that lasted for hours. So in the morning, the water, there was no flash flooding, there was nothing in that environment. Only for them around 7:30, between 7:30 and 7 and 7:30, they just saw a particular segment of the town. Water just burst in and start moving with alarming speed. That it is difficult for you to even carry anything on top of it. You cannot go. It can sweep everything because there are so many tanks, so many things that were swept. So up to now, we are still trying to get where that particular this came from because both downstream and upstream, there is no any river close by within the distance of 20 kilometers to that place. So it is a flash flooding that passed through a channel and then heads to the town and then busted it and then moved down. It affected other houses up, about 5 other communities up, about 3-4 communities up the town, and also about 2 communities down the town. But in those environments, they were not there. It was only in Mokwa that it entered in the middle of the town and they swept houses and the people and their property away. So it's a flash flooding that came from a far distance, not even within the town. So that was what happened, sir.
Right. So, Dr. Hussaini, there are lots of permutations because we also need to get some more insights into the possibilities. Okay. Some blame that or some postulate that this may have been from faraway Kainji. And as you mentioned, the closest is tens or dozens of kilometers away, right? And that's perhaps the northwest to Mokwa. Some have said it's probably Jeba, which is a bit closer, but it's still quite far. And that's what some of these people are saying, that was water released from Kainji? Was water released from Jeba in that sense? And I remember that the NEMA coordinator, now you are the state, you're in charge of the State Emergency Management Agency, but NEMA, that's the national, had said some of those homes, the areas are on flood plains. So when you put this together, do you think it supports the thinking that, is this from Kainji? Is this from Jeba?
They are in the flood plains because there is a kind of a gully erosion that passed through that place. You get what I'm saying? But the two dams have not started releasing water because they need water, and they are even storing water now before the rains go. So and anytime they want to release water, they get in touch with us, get in touch with the communities downstream, and also get in touch with the leaders for us to warn or pass information to those that are there. And Mokwa has never experienced a thing like this. For the past 20 years, it has never happened. So it is not a result of that, but I still, from our own angle, it is as a result of torrential rainfall that lasted for hours and the accumulation of different tributaries that burst its way into the river, because it is into the town, because it has never happened. Those that are within the stream, both upstream and downstream of River Niger, of Kainji Dam and Shiroro Dam and Jeba Dam, this committee has never been reported, except flash flooding, but it has never reported any flood events whatsoever for the last 20 years. So this, we still believe from our own language that it's a accumulation of flash flooding and the tributaries of minor rivers that burst its way into the town.
It's just mind-boggling to think of, but maybe you can also walk us through the communities affected. So maybe that way we can track the movement. What communities are affected, maybe from the top all the way, because it goes all the way to River Niger, and you've mentioned that some of the rescuers or the responders are now at River Niger to see if they can still get more bodies. So walk us through the communities affected so we can track it in that sense.
We have one Fulani community in very close to Zuguruma there. Then we have Ndayeko, which is about 5 kilometers to Mokwa. From there you move to Rabah. Rabah is 5 kilometers also down Mokwa. Then from there you move to some communities like Chiji, and we have some communities. You have Jagi. You have one other communities like that are within the plains that is down. But it is where we have the severity is in Ndayeko. In Ndayeko, it has about 54 houses that it's affected. In Mokwa, you have over 3,000 people affected, with over 200 houses affected. In Rabadia, you have just five houses that were affected. And that's what the magnitude that it passed through some communities. They were not even aware that it passed, because it passed behind them, and it never touched anywhere. So they are not even aware that it passes through, because it passed in the night. But the Mokwa events passed in the morning between 7 and 7:30. That was what happened, and it's now flew because they are a bit close to River Niger. So as it's passed through them, it moved to River Niger, and it floods down to the side of Patigi, where you have the confluence of River Kaduna and River Niger.
So just a quick one: is the flood still on, or has it subsided in that sense?
If you go there now, you'll be surprised. There is no single water except the one that is stored, that was a bit blocked before the railway crossing. But now there is you will not see any sign. You don't see the trajectory of its movement, but you will never see any water in those portions again.
Let's talk about some of the intervention that NEMA is bringing to the table. Your assessment from what you've seen, and you are there, you've seen what is going on. What do the people need urgently, and what is NEMA doing to cushion the impact of this very painful experience?
What they need very urgently, number one, is shelter. Number two, you have clothing, you have food items, you have clothing. NEMA has already brought some relief assistance, just a quick intervention, just to push. And what they brought is they brought food items and non-food items, like sleeping materials, and then you have food items. The state government has also responded by providing food items. As we talk, we were having initial problem because this thing happened in a city. So if you don't take article preparation or make your did a serious assessment to profile and then bring out those that are really affected, and you open a camp and you allow people to go, people will continue to come there, and the real target beneficiary will not be met. So what we did in the first 2 days was to do what we call serious profiling to get actually who are the beneficiaries. And we have to go to individual building that was collapsed to get it, because the number we were getting was a different number. This person will come and give another different, this person will come and give another. So we have to go there. Even when we are distributing these materials now, it is with those name of the household and the individuals that are involved. That is the list we are using to do distribution. It has started since day before yesterday, distribution. If, as I talk to you now, we are distributing relief assistance to the people now, and it's continuing. The wife of the governor she's on her way to the scene, and she's also going with relief assistance. So many people are donating. Individuals, corporate organizations, societies, and NGOs are bringing in. We have a committee put in place that are receiving this on behalf of it, and they will be given to this.
So Mr. Hosseini, if I may, at least we have the death toll, 153. You say it hasn't changed. I know it's preliminary, but how many houses have so far been counted to have been affected? How many people perhaps are you expecting? Just a moment, just a moment. Just a moment, if you can hear me. Yeah, just a moment. In addition to that, I also wanted you to add how many people are you expecting in maybe an IDP camp to be taken care of, at least at the very initial point?
Yes, we have a primary school there that was earmarked as the IDP camps. Yes, but the problem we are having is that most of them prefer to stay with the host community, because it's a one single community. It's not a metropolitan town that you have people like you have a state headquarters, or you have Abuja, or you have so. These are people who are having the same culture, the same language, and the same. So they are interrelated, and based on this, most of them are staying with kind neighbor. So if the conventional camps that we're supposed to have, they don't come to the camp. They only come and stay and then go back. So it is difficult for us to track them in the camp, except if we are going there with the assistant, we see them. But what we did was that we have their profiling, and anytime we need to get them, we call their leaders and they invite them. So we are still trying to impress on them to come into the camp, so that we have a complete way of taking care of them, and then the decision will be taken on how to provide them, not out of that primary school, how to provide them a temporary shelter or a temporary place where they will be staying. But most of them, as you are aware, they are interrelated, so they prefer to stay with their relatives or their kind neighbors.
So you have painted the picture, but we still hear that there's still a very dire humanitarian situation in that area. I know the federal government delegation visited on Saturday. Lots of promises were made. Even the state government as well, 6,000 bags of rice, you know, the usual things. But as at yesterday morning, you know, speaking to some of them, they said they had not gotten any relief as at yesterday morning, right? And some of these promises were made even before Saturday, because, you know, this happened Wednesday/Thursday. So by Friday, it had dawned on the state and the federal government what had happened. So in order to ensure that everyone affected at least feels the presence of government, gets some succor, what exactly are you doing, particularly for those who say they've only heard, but they've not seen anything?
No, that was around Saturday that we got, because when it happens, all attention was geared toward rescuing life, because in every minute, in every hour, 30 minutes, 1 hour, dead bodies will be brought. So everybody's attention was geared towards rescuing people and then recovering dead bodies. But since on Saturday, profiling took place, we started, because when we attempt to distribute the materials in the first place, the people that came, you know, the situation we have in this our country, everybody came and lined up. So we felt the target beneficiaries will not be met. So the best thing we could do was to do what we call profiling of the actual victims, using their locations and the leaders and those people that are affected to identify themselves, because they know who is staying next to who, they know their neighbors. So we have done that, and the relief assistance has been we have started giving them relief assistance. And as I speak to you now, we did that throughout the night up to around 10 o'clock. We stopped, and this morning it has continued. So if you have anybody's number, or you want me to go to that place now and then give you the clips of what we are doing there in terms of relief assistance, you see, and more donations and more materials have been procured by the state. But the distance is a bit, and then the transport, the road, we also have problem, because before, if we're not using smaller vehicles, you are using trailers, and then there is a particular portion of the town that has a bridge that links between the south and between the south and the north here. It's a major route that this trailer plight. So trailers block these roads because you have to take turn to pass. There is a particular the road has narrowed to a single lane. So the two lanes we are using, they have to take their turn to pass. So it's affecting the traffic. So sometimes trailers spend 2, 3, 4 hours a day to pass through that place. So that is the problem, the challenge we are having. But we are gradually overcoming that. We're finding other alternative route to take this thing to them. As of now, they will never have problem of any shortage of any assistance from the government, because it's coming more on daily basis. We have since 3 days ago, we are moving relief assistance to them.
Still a number of issues to raise with you, and we not just want to situate and put it in context that you are en route Mokwa, and you just stopped over to have this conversation with us, just so you can update Nigerians on what is going on. So we're glad that you're able to just take a moment to give us updates. There are reports online about that particular bridge which you talk about, which is a major transit route, links the north to some of the parts down south. There were reports about it being affected by the flooding. Some even had claimed that part of the bridge was damaged as a result. So maybe just to give us the true picture of that particular bridge, which is a major transit route, as you have said. Is it in order? Has it been damaged? Was it affected by flood? What exactly is the situation with the bridge?
It is seriously affected by flood. In fact, the 2 dead bodies we received that were recovered day before yesterday, so yesterday morning, were under the bridge, because there are debris under the bridge, and then when the bridge was blocked, the channel of the bridge was blocked. Water is very strong, and it was running as if there was a machine that was pushing the flood. So it navigated to the other side of the road and broke the road. So we have portion of the road that was seriously damaged, and that is what is causing this commotion we are having in terms of traffic. But we have scavengers there, and then the people from the state Negroma trying to see how they can fix the road.
Because that's another major issue. We have goods,
that's another major
food,
it's being addressed.
People traveling on that route. And if that is even delayed for 1 day, you can imagine the ripple effect across the nation in terms of...
It's not even affecting the people of that place, it's affecting the transportation of goods.
Exactly,
from
across...
Lagos, from Lagos to
the north,
and also from the north to the southwest there. So it's a serious problem that needs to be addressed, and the state government, through Ministry of Works, in collaboration with the federal government, they are working assiduously to overcome the challenge.
Absolutely. We're going to let you go in less than 5 minutes, but I want you to speak to lessons learned. What are the lessons learned? Because you said this has never happened before, but from time to time you develop contingency plans, worst case scenarios. In other climes you have drills, you have, alarms, you just have these things you never pray they will happen, but they might happen, understanding the terrain. So what lessons have been learned, and what's the government putting in place to ensure that if this happens in the future, in the coming days, years, months, who knows, we're not caught napping yet again, not forgetting the travelers who we understand were sleeping in Mokwa Mosque as well. I think that also exacerbated the situation.
Yes, as we are all aware, in this part of the world, let's say in our continent of Africa, we are still grappling with the issue of disaster management, especially climate change. Most of our activities we are still trying to reach a perfection, but for now, we are still far, let's be realistic ourselves, we are still far behind in terms of trying to manage or trying to reduce the impact of disasters, in terms of trying to put early warnings in place, in terms of trying to build the capacity of the people. And what the state government is doing is working with experts, professionals, to do what you call hazard identification, vulnerability capacity assessment for the whole state, so that we will place what we are doing now is and then because of this climate change and then the environment, especially this deforestation issue we're having new areas that have never been flooded before being flooded now. So we need to brass up to address the challenges. The government is already doing what it can do. As I talk to you now, NEMA just did their stakeholder engagement to prepare people's mind towards this flood and then put emergency, preparedness and response plans in place. The state government, through SEMA, SEMA is organizing its own tomorrow. Though we have done that and castigate and do what we call downscaling. We already have this. We are doing compound meetings in collaboration with UNICEF. So, and then the Ministry of Environment has also installed some gadgets that will give us early warning gadgets in different locations that we'll be working with, and we're also working with the dam authorities to sensitize people and also get actual timely information to people when to release water or when the waters are high and their carrying capacity cannot be able to accommodate them and they need to release. So we are working that and working with also the local communities, because sometimes most people are already, as far as the essence is concerned, most people are already aware that this flooding has come to stay because of our location. We have two major dams crisscrossing the state with other tributaries, River Niger and River Kaduna, with other tributaries, and they are big rivers. So people are already aware because of this, our sensitization year in, year out. But what we are battling with now is attitudinal change. You will talk to people to leave. Some of them will say this is a storage ground, and also the permanent solution to this situation is resettlement. You know what it means to reset people out of where they are staying. You know what it means. So it's capital intensive, but it's a gradual process. The federal government is awarded.
Just before I let you go, so would you say this took the people or the area by surprise?
The flooding, it came because
please.
It has never happened before. It came because it has never happened in that environment. If it were to be people downstream that we have been that have been used to flood, we would have said that. But Mokwa for the past 20 years has never experienced this. Not in this kind of. It's only flash flood that they experience that will just come, enter some people out, and then the next thing is gone. But it has never happened for the past 20 years, as far as I'm concerned, because I've been working in the disaster management for the past 20 years, and we've been managing flood situation. Mokwa has never been a major issue in terms of flooding flood in the state. We only have gully erosions that causes flash flooding sometimes, and the flood enter people's house and they move, but not claiming lives like this.
Quite a very sad and worrying situation. I must thank you for stopping by to ensure that you have this conversation with us. And please do also give us update as soon as you get there, when you get to the location. Dr. Ibrahim Hussaini, Acting Director, Niger State Emergency Management Agency, joining us from Niger State for this conversation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, so we'll take a break. When we come back, we will switch gears now to talk about issues around accountability in governance, especially a recruitment process. Now, all the political gladiators are gearing up, whether in the ruling or opposition, and everybody's already talking about 2027 and we're in 2025. So you too need to be ready as well, and that's why we're having the conversation. Join us again.
While we'll continue to keep our eyes on what's playing out in Mokwa, Niger State, with the death toll, the humanitarian response, and ensuring that the people are able to get some semblance of their lives back, let's talk about the governance that affects the policies that you see, the governance that affects the response that you see, the governments that affect, or governance that affects security, economy, and the rest. And make no mistake about this, second-term governors, for example, are already shopping for their successors in that sense. Others are working towards 2027, either for re-election as governor, lawmakers at the state and the federal level, or for who will be the #1 man or woman in Nigeria. But I'd like you to take a listen to something that the president of Nigeria's Senate said over the weekend. Got a lot of people laughing, but then it just opened up yet another conversation that we need to have about the leadership recruitment process. So take a listen, and then we'll dive deeper into that whole process.
And this, for me, is something I must advise our governors, particularly those of them who are on their second terms. Do not give power to anybody who is not looking for power. Don't give power to anybody who is not prepared. Don't go hiding in your heart that this boy is very subservient. He's always kneeling down when he's talking to me. The wife is always rolling on the floor. I think I should make this one the governor. If you do that, you are giving power to somebody who is not prepared for governance, and they will disappoint you. That is where betrayals normally start. I'm just trying to advise. For the progressive governors, I believe that all of you are doing well because you are being led by a man who has both sight and vision. I was in Ogun State, Mr. President, to close the National Sports Festival. And I must salute the efforts of Dr. Biodun Sion, the governor of Ogun State. He represented this nation very well. Your Excellency, the governor of Ogun State, I'm very proud of what you are doing. May God continue to bless you. Along that corridor, going all the way Abeokuta and all, he has left Agbara where they used to have the industrial city. He's creating a new industrial city.
So yes, the Senate President speaking there, he made mention of Ogun State. By the way, yes, the Ogun State governor is going to be ending his second term, and of course he'll be in that process of shopping, or at least influencing, selecting, call it whatever. But let's take a deep dive into what the process should be like and how to ensure that we get the very best from the top to the bottom, as they say. We have Kunle Lawal joining us on the program this morning. He's Executive Director of Electoral College Nigeria. Good morning, Mr. Lawal.
Good morning, Claudia. It's always a pleasure to be here.
First, let me get your general thoughts, because there's a lot in what the Senate President said. Said don't give power to those looking for power. To those who are not looking for power, those who are not prepared for it, don't give it to those who are subservient, who are kneeling down for you, those wives are rolling on the floor. Do not give power. Because it says if you do that, betrayal is common. So generally speaking, what do you make of this statement by the Senate President? Then we'll dive deeper.
So for me, the first problem is that the Senate President makes it clear, not an assumption, but the reality of what politics is in Nigeria, that the transference or the movement of power is from power to power, not from people to power. And in a democracy, it's supposed to be the people that actually make those choices, not the governors. So you could say maybe he's speaking from a party perspective, that who you're going to support in primaries, but he didn't put it that way. And he made it clear that it's a hand-on. For me, the first thing that came to my mind when I had that conversation was the Fubara incident. And for me, I was like, oh, okay. And then his own situation when he decided to pass power on after he was a governor. And, you know, it gets you thinking, who actually holds the power? Is it these governors, or we, the people who are the electorates that have been, how do I put it, have mortgaged our situation and allowed them make these choices?
So I think we must give it to him for being honest. And that's why we brought you to intervene. He's clearly saying that citizens don't decide who becomes their leader. Especially, let's just use the state level. So the conversation I think we should be having, which we need you for, is how do we take back power from politicians? Because they already, they make a lot of the decisions with war chest and all of this influence as to who gets the party's ticket in the primaries. And everybody just follows suit. It is what they produce within the primaries that all of us are left with to decide on. So how do we get back our power?
Now, this is it's always a funny situation. And, you know, most people say, so most of our agencies, most of our media always say, vote, go and vote, PVC. But that's not how a democracy runs. In Nigeria, we have what I would naturally say is a selection and not an election, because we're not part of the primaries process. So people are picked A, B, C, D, and then we have to pick from A, B, C, D. One of the key things that shocks me is how people within the workforce or within the civil service are not allowed to participate in partisan politics. That's party politics. And that is cutting off another about 30 million of party participation. Any great democracy has a lot of people in the country participating in its primaries. If you want to know a strong democracy, there are a lot of people participating in primaries. And Nigeria, we do not have up to 500, let me not say 500, we do not have up to 750,000 dues-paying members in a political party. And that is destructive for a country of 250 million.
We need to pitch a tent there, because that's an important point. So is that a failing on the part of the people? Because they say that if you fund the structure, that's when you have a say in the structure in that sense. And you hear in the PDP, for example, them say, well, it was former Governor Wike who was funding, so he wields a lot of power. So where were you people when he was funding? Now, all of a sudden, you want to claim the party. So is that something that the people should look at and say, okay, we take the blame for this one, we should do better?
If they don't take the blame, the country takes the blame. Well, but of course, yes, the electorate, like I said, mortgaged its responsibilities. And I don't think it's a naivety of the public. I think it's a total disregard for our civic or our understanding of civic rights in Nigeria. The average Nigerian, oh, anyhow, if you pay me, you pay me. That's how we are. And it's not worked. Politically, if you do not participate in that particular process, you cannot be a godfather. So the people can be godfathers, and the Constitution also can be godfathers, but we have not let that happen. We've created a culture of what happens, and that culture is defined as a way of life. We've created a culture of what happens, and we follow that process. So governors dictate, ex-governors dictate. That's why it's so easy for an ex-governor to go back to the Senate, which is an executive and a legislative function, and we actually do not even differentiate. And the truth is, I think the only ex-governor that has made a good legislator, I believe, is Senator Adams Oshimole. I don't think anybody else, because they're two different parts. I even feel the ex-governor of Edo State should actually have been a legislator from the beginning.
So it is a serious, how do I put this now? So I'm looking for the right words to be able to convey this as much as possible. So the whole idea is to make sure power returns to the people in that sense. What can legislation do? Are there legislations and then we don't have it? Because someone like Nyesom Wike, for instance, would say, you can imagine a man coming out publicly to say, I bought the form for the governor, and every member, whether it's the National Assembly or the State Assembly, I paid for their form. Ask all of them, did any of them buy form? You know, he makes bold these things. And he's not supposed to be, I don't know whether there's any law that incriminates him or not, or whether he's liable for anything in that sense. But these are the building blocks to how people carry much of this influence politically, and they're able to make decisions on who succeeds them and what goes and what doesn't go. Is there a legislation? Can we use a legislation to check some of these things? Is INEC supposed to be involved one way or the other? Just an open question.
So democracy is free to allow anybody participate at any level. If he wants, as a governor wants to buy a form, it's free. This is what's critical. If the people do not participate enough, how many delegates does he have? No,
Mr. Conde, what I'm saying is that a man buys a form, funds the campaign, he wields influence over you. So you're more likely to be loyal to him than the will of the people.
Okay, what stops the average Nigerian from buying a form, coming together, a group? Okay, let's just say us sitting down here, myself, Claudia, and you, and then we say, we're going to support this person, and we buy the form. Well, in any climb in the world in democracy, once you take those steps, that's what will happen. So it's fine. He buys it. But imagine, let's say, 5,000 people in Rivers State that are in that party saying, because you use Wiki, I'm using Rivers State. 5,000 people in that party saying we are putting our money behind these guys. They have the votes. They have the number of delegates because they participate in party primaries. They will outwit a governor. But here's the conversation. As long as the governor does that and we do not participate, that's what gives him that power.
So the docility of the people is the problem.
Yes, that's the problem. Democracy is not against law. Anybody can go behind.
So how do we awaken our people to take responsibility? I don't think that the entire number, I don't know how many politicians there are, whether they're elected officials, I don't think they're up to 30,000 or maybe 20,000 or way less than that. So you can see the microcosm, the insignificant number of people, permit my words, in terms of percentage, as against the entire population. Let's even exaggerate that there are 50,000 politicians elected. I know it's not even near close. Let's even exaggerate it. And then we're about, let's give it ourselves 200 million. So you can imagine the number of people controlling our Commonwealth. Let's take it back. What do we do?
First and foremost, the average Nigerian, so I'd give simple, basic problems. First, we're not Nigerian enough, and we don't have Nigerian people. I would say the most marginalized tribe in Nigeria is Nigerians. And here's the conversation, because everybody is Igbo first, Yoruba, Fulani, Efik, and etc. Secondly, the holy book of being a citizen of Nigeria is the Constitution. How many Nigerians? Less than 1% of Nigerians have opened the Constitution. I didn't say no, I said opened. No is less than 0.25% that know the Constitution. And please, do not mention lawyers. No offense, they don't know anything. Back to what I was saying. So
they'll come for you.
In a manner of speaking, because this is what they studied, right? Yeah. So they know the law because they studied the law. But I think you're saying in the manner of speaking.
Yeah, I'm saying generally, the average lawyer doesn't even understand what happens in the Electoral Act. I'll give you an example. During the issues with the elections and court proceedings, I was surprised to see that nobody went to court and said that within the Electoral Act, every political party must have produced a physical and an electronic copy to INEC. And in the face that that wasn't done, it means that every convention and primaries were null and void. That was simple. It's in the Electoral Act. No,
well, that's just a few lawyers.
Well, we have no lawyer went there. But it's that simple.
We have a lot more, but you can go with your
so let's ignore that. But let's state. So the issue is most Nigerians don't ever understand the laws, and a constitution is only as strong, or an electoral act is only as strong as the number of people that know it in that country. That's another weakness by us. So no Nigerians, no electoral act, and then we also, I don't know, we have this. I don't know whether it's African, but we have this false view of power. So I think maybe because we've lived under military rule for quite some time, I think that has bought into our thinking of how democracy works. President suspends the governor. Yeah, it's fine. President can do that. No, it's not fine. Section 305 doesn't give a president that power. But it's fine. And because of that, we do not challenge the status quo. We believe it's great for a governor to do a road. It's great for a governor to commission a borehole. Are you joking? Nobody sits down. Okay, like we mentioned, I think me and you in a conversation before, we mentioned nobody knows, there's no local government in Nigeria whose FAC allocation is less than 250 million. That's minus their IGR. Nobody cares. And the so-called executive chairman move around easily. They live within us. Nobody challenges them.
You know, the reason we're having this conversation, some will say it's too early, it's still 2 years to 2027, but that's not according to a politician's calendar. 2027 is like next week for them.
No,
so
I don't think it's next week.
It's like tomorrow,
no,
right?
2027 started the moment May 29, 2023.
So it's important to equip the people and ensure that the systems, the institutions, the structures that will ensure that we have a good leadership recruitment process is at least tinkered with such that it reflects to a large extent, what we want as a people, our yearnings as a people. Now, that's another part entirely that I don't want to go to. So there's a pyramid in that sense, right? So you have the population, few of them join political parties, fewer are members of the executive of a political party, even fewer get to decide who the flag bearer of a party is. In that sense, sometimes the governor influences it. So it's almost like a pyramid. Some say this pyramid is meant to work bottom up, but what we have is top to bottom. So it's a person at the top that dictates, and then we, the electorate at the bottom, get to select or elect who they have decided in that sense. I hope you understand my sense. So how do we balance this? Because there's a bottom-up approach. There's also the top-to-bottom approach. A governor would still influence a successor, yes or no?
Yes, but...
Is that wrong?
It's not, democratically it's not wrong, but here's the conversation. Till Nigerians begin to invest in their own democracy, we'll never have a Nigeria that we're supposed to have. Nigerians have, how do I put it, thrown away their responsibility. And because we are not invested in it, we cannot demand accountability from it. So till we sit down, let's give an example. Let's say in Lagos, how many people even would say they participate in trying to ensure that the next governor will emerge? No, I can tell you the number is less than 100 that are thinking about the next governor. What's the rest of 100 minus 25 million in Lagos are doing is what are they going to bring so that we just vote? That's what you're thinking of. And as long as we continue to think that way, I don't think democracy is going to change in Nigeria.
So are you saying that we should begin to think of ensuring that people join political parties in that sense?
Yeah, I think it's more critical than anything else. What's missing in Nigeria's democracy, as long as you're not invested in a political party, we'll continue to have low numbers in participation. Last time we had 50% of our voting population participate in an elections, 2015. And if you notice, because of the issues in 2015, which was quite an interesting election, we had people jump into political parties. We had people doing door-to-door, not even giving orders by the party. They were doing door-to-door. They were invested in that election. And that was just 50%. They were invested in that election. As long as we do not do that.
But how is that different from the compulsory voting bill, which has now been thrown out by the speaker, saying, you people must vote by all means, participate in this. So if you're saying people must also participate in political parties, they tell you, well, I have freedom of association. I have the freedom to choose to be a part or not. So isn't that just going to go the route of the compulsory voting bill? By the way, do you support that?
No, I never supported that. Number one, it abuses the freedom of expression, association, and movement. So
doesn't joining a political party also?
No. So what I'm saying, I'm not saying it's compulsory. What I'm saying is that once you do not join a political party, you should just know you've exercised your freedom not to ask for accountability. You've exercised your freedom not to participate in an election. You've exercised your freedom to choose a selection and not an election. That's what I'm saying. So I don't believe in any compulsory things. We're all here now. Price of rice is the same for all of us, whether you participate or not. Price of groundnut oil is the same. Dollar is hitting us back to back. So it's for me. So it's not critically a what they call a compulsion. But if we're going to repair Nigeria's democracy, if we are not involved in political parties, then we're joking.
So at the end of the day, it looks like a cul-de-sac, a catch-22 situation. Is that what you're describing here? Because your description looks like it's gloom, gloom, gloom all the way.
Yeah, we've done the same things. Has there been any change? And the funny thing is that we think, yeah, maybe 2027 will be exceptionally different or will be altered by what's going on. I don't think so. And this is why I think we're even going to have a lower voter turnout in 2027 than we had in 2023. And it's not because anybody is doing anything, let's say, wrong. It's because we're not even committed to that system of democracy. And less commitment, less participation. less involvement.
A lot to unpack, really, from this conversation. And as I said, the goal is to set the standard. What should the standard be? And then try to find a way to ensure that that standard stands. That's why it's called a standard, right? We're joined now to expand this conversation by Advocate for a New Nigeria. Is popular both on and off social media. We have Mr. Peter Aka joining us, but a lot of people know him as Randy Peters online. Good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, sirs. An absolute pleasure being here. Good morning, sir.
So you've been causing quite a stir, both on and offline. Online with your advocacy for electoral reforms, fixing INEC. You see, no transmission, no election. Then offline with your movement. Today you are at the National Assembly. Some other time you are at the police to get, you know, not permission, but just to inform them that this is what we're doing.
Yes,
it's almost like you're driven by something. And we were just having a conversation about, you know, the Senate president speaking to second-term governors on what to do to select their successors or to choose their successors in that sense. But you are driven by something different in that sense, the whole process. So tell us why you're driven, why now, and we'll come to the feedback that you've been getting.
Thank you very much for having me. Look, the tragedy about Nigeria is that we are living in an alternate reality. We have decided to put the cart before the horse, so everyone is struggling. The literal professor said that things have fallen apart and the center cannot hold. So what happens when the center has caved? What happens to what is supposed to get support or stamina from it? Everyone in Nigeria is struggling today because the centerpiece where everyone should get stability is not okay. If we fail to fix governance, we are just in a vicious circle of lamentations and complaints. Nigeria, we claim to be a democracy, and the hallmark of every democracy are free, fair, credible, and peaceful elections. Without people being able to choose their leaders, you can't call that a democracy. We can decide to call it anything else. And unfortunately for us, we have refused or failed to pay attention and fixing that system, which is the first line of accountability for public office holders. If you do not have a system where you can vote in people, and if they fail to perform, you vote them out, what is the deterrence for doing or behaving badly? When you know there is a corrupt or criminal electoral process that you can weaponize and come back. So that is what we have. We begin. Why should somebody be talking about people, a governor, bringing in a successor? Is it that the 10 million or so persons in the state do not have the ability to choose a leader? It is because our political system is structured such that we have strong men against the will of the people. So somehow, whether or not the people decide to sway this way, there is a structure that gives power to one person to be able to decide the fate of every other person. And Nigerians are not concerned about that. And if you do not do it now, at what point do we do it? You are complaining about inflation, insecurity, and whatever, the cost of living. The persons who put you in this situation are already prepared for 2027. So the question to every Nigerian is, what is then your plan for 2027? And nobody should say that the electoral process is okay. 2023 was a very clear example. We had 93 million registered voters according to INEC. 89 million collected PVCs. That is more than 90%. Less than 30 million came out to vote. Why are Nigerians not interested in that process? The professor in INEC, the INEC chairman, received 313 billion from the government and said, out of this amount, I'm taking 150-something billion for electronic technology. BVAS, which was the ultimate, supposed to be the game changer in the 2022 Electoral Act. On the day of the elections, the INEC chairman said there was a glitch. Gentlemen, does any of us here know why there was a glitch or what caused the glitch? And why should we not have further glitches going forward? If there is sincerity of purpose on the part of the politicians to actually give power to the people, why has nobody talked about fixing that process to ensure we have a seamless process? So the entire arrogance of a political class that is corrupt is a dysfunctional electoral system. And if you fail to fix it, you are only postponing the evil day, because they find a way of getting back by 2027, you have 4 more years. You complain and lament, then you get to 2031. If you fail to do nothing, how many years do Nigerians want to spend on the street complaining and lamenting? It is either now or we continue to suffer.
So at the end of the day, you've made a very profound and striking statement, all in just the short time you spoke on, and it's quite important. So I'm just processing. So I'll give you a scenario. I'll give you a straight question and give us a solution. Let's assume that these politicians are not ready for change. Let's assume that they are weaponizing the system. Let's assume that this system is working for them. And anything that will fix this system, they'll come against it with everything they have.
Yes.
As a Nigerian, you are the vanguard of this, at least for now. Where should we start from?
We must start from people identifying what exactly is the importance of that process. Do Nigerians realize that the collective destinies of persons depend on our decision to hold persons accountable? Because one of the things you will notice about Nigeria is that the persons in power are emboldened by the docility of the people. How many are the persons in power? How many senators do we have? How many reps? How many persons are in the presidency? Calculate all with the 36 state governors. So the question will now be, in Nigeria, the people in power and the power of the people, who should be greater? If one person can come out to boast and say that in so-so-so state by 2027 there will be no party or there will be no opposition, or by this time nobody can stop the re-election of this person, at what point do the 200 million or more victims of bad governance come together and say, by this time we want to end bad governance?
Why do you think we're docile?
There are different reasons to it. One, there is an apathy because Nigeria throws a lot at you. So the dysfunctionality in government makes you weak and uninterested. You are battling hunger, you are battling insecurity, you are battling a lack of health infrastructure. So everybody is struggling. There is little energy to begin to put into what you believe cannot be changed. So when you talk about having free and fair elections in Nigeria or good governance, some persons are completely detached from that reality. It will not work. They won't tell you, Peter, forget about this thing. And then again, there is the benefit of hindsight for NSAS. One of the only times Nigerian youths came out to agitate for the end of brutality, they were met with even more brutality. So by the time you step out to say, I want to do this, your mother, somebody is calling you, please, it's not your blood that Nigeria will be built on. Can you come back home? So there are many reasons, but my point is this. What is our other option? If we decide not to be interested, people are died. More than 150 persons are killed in Plateau. A flood has killed more than 200 in Niger. If you speak, we are going to die. So at what point do we now decide to sum up the courage and say, let's fix this?
It's a lot to unravel. I mean, the Niger situation, we had the State Emergency Management Authority saying so far they've recorded 153, but they fear that the death toll will increase, particularly when they go to the river Niger. But gentlemen, I want to lay this before you because this conversation is important. It's meant to reawaken something in Nigerians. Make no mistake about it. There's still millions of Nigerians and even more that are in support of those in power.
Yes.
And you see them from time to time. They come out campaign, be it door to door, they buy t-shirts, face caps, they're all out there, right? So is it docility or just freedom of choice? So some choose to support the system as it is right now for a number of reasons. It works for them in that sense. Maybe they have someone close to them who is benefiting from it, so naturally it's my family, great. Or they just feel this works. At least some of them have not been to other climes, or some just think this is the best we can have. So they decide to pitch their tent with the current system. For some other people like you are like, no, it must work. So how do we find what I call it a level playing field to be able to cross-pollinate and say, well, this is what we want. You have your freedom to choose, support it or not, but this is at least the barest minimum that we should have when it comes to structure or the institution that ensures that we choose the right leaders. I'll come to you then, come to the kind of feedback you've been getting.
Okay, so first and foremost, here's the problem. You can't engage a system you don't understand, which is why the work we do is very important, which is political education. You can't engage a system. So I'll tell you how Nigeria is rigged. It's rigged in multiple ways. Number one, Nigeria says, within the Electoral Act, when you're running for president, you cannot spend more than 10 billion.
On paper.
You cannot, when you're running for governor, you cannot spend more than 1 billion. When you're running for Senate, you cannot spend more than 100 million.
That's
when
on
you're
paper.
running for, no, it's on paper. But here's where they rigged it. They put this law so you cannot say there's no, how do I put it? There's no
spending limits.
Spending limits. Now, the trick the National Assembly put to rig everything was nobody starts with the responsibility of monitoring campaign limits, campaign fund limits. So when you carry a case that this person spent so amount in his election, they will tell you no one has jurisdiction. End. Court case. Finito. Simple. The campaign limit for local government chairman is 25 million. we have political parties selling the form for local government chairman at 10 million. What are you going to spend on campaigns? It's gone. So, no, and here's the problem. Nigerians do not understand. Like I say, you can't engage a system you don't understand. He said something when I was talking, electronic transmission. Yes, everybody had a problem with that. But if you go into the Electoral Act, INEC has the power to choose what mode of transmission. Yeah. That is already rigging the election before it happens. Yeah. So, you see, these little minor lines in our laws, so for you to fight the system, you have to go back to understand why it is the way it is, and then get it corrected, then come back to fighting the system. Because as long as that system exists, you now have 3 modes of primaries. Indirect and direct were fine before. Delegates, you now have consensus, meaning 6 of us, and I was in the political party, so 6 of us, national. And
they served you breakfast, right?
No. I thought it was hectic. When I entered the civic space, I even found out that one is worse. But let's not discuss that. But I was at the highest level, and I understand what consensus primaries means. We don't understand it. We think it's a better freedom. No, it means that 4 of us here who have political positions can choose and say, you know what, this guy is going for governor.
Because he has knelt down, he has rolled on the floor, because he's subservient.
Yes, that's what consensus means. And, you know, here's the joke. Political parties conduct multiple primaries. I was in a political party and I was at the highest level. INEC only responds to the invitation of the national secretary. So please, how are you at 6 different primaries, then you throw it to the courts to choose? INEC itself is a problem. I don't think it's a problem. It's the problem.
It's a weapon.
So I know how the system is supposed to work. National Secretary, who is the chief administrator of a political party, sends a letter. INEC attends that primaries. How do you have 6 primaries? Like, look at the Edo State situation with APC before the present governor was elected. There were more than 5 primaries. Are you joking? How is that even happening? And you know, this multiple situations. So what I think the Nigerian electorate has not understood is that we must learn to think like these guys. That's the truth. You cannot say you're going to run against these guys that already know how the system works, and then you want to play an Obama mode. Are you serious? These guys are not Obama playing.
So Peters, yes. I'm sure you're going to respond to some of the things that Kyle raised and respond to him as well. So let me just break it down. You have spoken about coordinated chaos. He has talked about legislative flip-flops. Those are the alibi these politicians hide under to deal with the citizens the way they are being dealt with. I always like to start with the question of where are we starting from? You have started somewhere. How do we get the critical mass to be able to make this happen as soon as possible?
As soon as possible. Thank you very much. To Mr. Kayode's question, you were talking about how do we get a balance. The question will be if there is sincerity of purpose in the phrase electoral reform or fixing INEC. Is there anything that should be partisan in it? Is there anything that is ambiguous? Should everybody, regardless of partisan support, not be interested in a credible process? So if you leave it not to be reformed, are you saying that not reforming it benefits a certain faction? So leave it crude so that those people benefit, or let's refine it and give a level playing ground. I think anybody who is honest should be able to say we should reform it. Not by President Buhari telling you that if you reject the result of this, you should go to court, because there is a judicial aspect of it. Nigerians, you know, said there was electoral reform in 2022. There was a lot of persons do not pay attention. Section 60, subsection 65 of that Electoral Act says the presiding officer will transmit the result in a way and manner that is prescribed by INEC. And same thing in paragraph 38 of the INEC guidelines. So even when INEC decided a way to handle the elections, the judiciary did not hold them to it because there are no consequences spelled out in the Electoral Act. And right now in the National Assembly, there is an amendment that is going on between INEC and the National Assembly, with INEC having 5-point agenda, none specifying there should be mandatory transmission of results electronically. So in all of it, you will see that there is an issue. And the mere fact that since 2023 till date, nobody in the helms of power have thought it right that we should fix this system, and there must be a timeline. At most by December this year, we should conclude anything about election, because it must be 1 year out of the other election. That is why you see us screaming. So now, coming to your question, Nigerians will realize that the clock is ticking on every one of us. When you see me, what I am doing is to ensure that I do not wake up a day after 2027 and realize there is something I should have done that I did not do. You cannot change everything, but you can begin somewhere. If you get a foundation from where you can begin your nation building, it is easier for you. Because when you come, people will tell you, oh, there is hunger, there is this, there is... During End Bad Governance, you saw it. After the protest, what happened? These prices of things even skyrocketed.
I asked about the feedback you've been getting, because it's important to track it.
Yes.
Because you've set a target, December.
Yes.
December is 6 months
from now
away. And
that's when Mahmoud will leave office.
Exactly. So, and you know how fast things can move. And tell you, oh, well, it's not possible again. Let's move on to 2031 and just work for it. So what kind of feedback have you been getting? A lot of people know you as a content creator. They missed your content, funny content. Now they see you talking about fixing Nigeria. Some ask, how did Peter just switch? Is he being funded by somebody? Is somebody empowering him, as they said, who is bankrolling you in that sense? But speak to us about the feedback. Okay, you guys remember bankrolling. Speak to us about the feedback you've been getting. Is this mission impossible? Does it look like mission impossible, or this mission is possible for you? And those questions around the backing you're getting.
Do you know why I don't place it on a scale of mission impossible or mission not possible? It is mission that must be done. It is either Nigerians do it now or they do it later. The only thing is postponing the evil day, as it is. When it comes to bankrolling, in fact, moving to Abuja, I live in Lagos and I've been going to Abuja. It is my house rent that I was supposed to use to renew, that I have been using. Nobody, because Nigerians, even when you come out to say, oh, we want to do this, because of the space of, you know, civic engagement, people begin to feel like maybe this person is out for some financial benefits and all of that. There is nobody. We are just trying to see. We came together with a group of persons, Nigeria Electoral Reform Coalition, NACO. We are personally doing whatever we are doing. The conference we held in Abuja, we invited people like Barrister Femi Falana. There was almost no refreshment to give anybody there. But the feedback is that a lot of Nigerians do not actually believe in that process, that we can have free and fair elections. That is how bad it is. A lot of Nigerians have given up that when it comes to credible elections, they will not do anything. Some people will tell you the statement, is it these people who are benefiting from it that you expect to reform it? Then the question is...
And it's a valid question.
It's a valid question, and this is the valid answer. If you cannot get the reform from them, maybe you should wait for them to exhaust 8 years, and maybe the persons they bring will be easier to get it from. It will never get better. It is either you mount your pressure now and get it, or we continue to suffer.
And it's good to see that you've gotten attention from a lot of people from the National Assembly and others. So wish you the very best. I must commend the work you're doing. Hopefully, we've been able to ignite or trigger something in Nigerians to get more interested and involved in the process. Peter Aka, advocate for a new Nigeria. At Randy Peters online.
That's in the back burner right now.
Oh, definitely.
This is big for him.
Absolutely. And we wish you're able to raise your rent. Right? After you spend time. And Kunle Lawal, the Executive Director, Electoral College. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Well, it's a collective work. We need to fix the system, and we have to do it together. We'll take a moment now. When we return, we're still reviewing President Bola Tinubu's 2 years of renewed hope. What is it for you? Find out in a moment. Stay with us.
Welcome back. 2 years down the line, just 29th of May, 2025, marked 2 years, actually, of the Tinubu administration. So we've been doing an assessment of how well or otherwise he's done as the president of Nigeria, given some of his policies across board. We're being joined on the program by Andrew Memedu, Country Director of Action Aid Nigeria. He joins us virtually from the nation's capital, Abuja. Mr. Memedu, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
So from your organizational point of view and perhaps personal point of view, when you look at 2 years of the administration, what strikes you the most as to what the government has done right, as well as what you're concerned about that is doing that may not go well with Nigerians? I just want to give you a blanket for you to paint on.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. First of all, if you look at the President's Renewed Hope agenda, it encompasses what should bring hope, aspiration, and good things to Nigeria. So it focuses on the economy. It focuses on issues of national security. It focuses on infrastructure and overall development. So in a broad sense, if you look at it, it's a renewed hope agenda. It's all the good things. It's in a way an interpretation of what the Constitution says, which are the two primary responsibilities of government. The first one is protection of lives and property, and the welfare of the citizens. So it's a good plan, good focus, and the governments, of course, hit the ground running. The first day, the president made an announcement, so subsidies gone, unification of the exchange rates, trying to unify the exchange rates. So a couple of policy pronouncements. So we saw a difference in style of governance. We cannot say that in the last 2 years, so from the day the president took over office, we cannot say that we don't have a president that is not present, that is not responding, that is not responsive. But the question is, how deep and how solution-based are these issues that have been put on the table? So from the first subsidy removal, we saw that we were not ready for it. So we just the president made that statement, but we're not prepared for it. It took the nation till today. The country has not recovered from it. And the CNG gas that was promised has still not been fully implemented. It's just in piecemeal. The exchange rate regime, the policy that was tried to be harmonized, it has still not yielded the desired results, because between then and now, exchange rates, yes, it has narrowed the gap between the official rates and the what we call the black market rate. So it has narrowed that gap. Definitely, we've seen that happen. We have seen that the costs in terms of loans and operations, as in some ways, we've been able to save some money that we put into subsidy. However, some of these have been reflected at the macro level. Some states have gotten up to 300% increase in their allocation, in their monthly allocation, which is great. So that is macro. We have seen that the amount we use, or we normally go to take to be able to use for governance and all that has been able to reduce it, because those are macro level. But if you look at the micro level, which is where ActionAid comes in, so ActionAid works in 36 states of the country. We have our reach. We have over 700 partners, local partners, NGOs that we are working with across these 36 states. So we are in touch with the community, rural community, hard to reach community. Now, the story they tell us is different from the story that is being told at the government level, that things are working and things are getting better. Let's not forget that when President Buhari came into power, we were asked to be patient. So 2 years, 4 years, somebody said, 8 years. So we waited for 2 years, 4 years, 8 years. And now this current government is scoring that last administration very low. So according to them, they say that administration failed. The president met a collapsed economy, and that's what he's trying to do. And I think what we are trying to avoid is repeat the same mistake, whereby we are told to be patient. So being patient, what does being patient mean? When we say Nigerians should sacrifice, we should sacrifice. What does sacrifice mean? Does sacrifice at the micro level, how does that also affect sacrifice at the macro level? We do not recall any approval, for instance, for the president to get a presidential jet. We don't have it on record where that approval was sought and it was gotten. But the president got a presidential jet. So we thought that if there are sacrifices, sacrifices should come from bottom, actually from top down, not from bottom. It should come from the leaders. If I say, oh, let's sacrifice, it means that as a leader, in my status as a leader, I will show example. I will look at the number of ministers I'm appointing. I will look at the number of cabinets I have, cabinet members that I have. I will look at the allowances and all of that that goes into it. I look at the trips and all of those things that are happening and how do I cut down on it so that Nigerians see visibly that, yes, this president is we actually do not have money. Because the narrative is, you're saying that we do not have enough resources, but on the other hand, your lifestyle, your expenditure is not portraying that. So I think those are some of the controversies that the administration is throwing at us as citizens.
Well, let me just quickly come in here and give you this angle. So we've had former leaders even within the APC, former governor, minister, even presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar, former Minister Rotimi Amechi, former Governor Nasir El-Rufai, speaking about this administration. Yes, they are opposition in that sense, a coalition, but they spoke about this government weaponizing poverty. And for former Minister Rotimi Amechi, he talked about removal of subsidy and how much money should be available to government to at least inject into the economy to ensure there's a cushion. So if you're removing something, you're meant to return or at least put it back in some way you get so that you can buffer the effect. So they spoke about weaponizing poverty, and you've talked about the work you do, with equality, ensuring that, the average person gets some sense of governance, of a dividends of democracy in that sense. So do you agree with that statement that this government is weaponizing poverty, or at least that poverty is now widespread under this government?
Yeah, thank you very much. Clearly, I think let's forget the messenger. The message is correct, extremely correct. Poverty is being weaponized. And being weaponized to the extent that even if you have to take a pack of spaghetti to vote for a candidate, you see people then going ahead to do that. We went to a community here in FCT sometime before the last election. And we said, please do not sell your vote. Let's vote for the right candidate. We're doing mobilization and all that. And the community says that the only time they see politicians is when it's election time. And they make all the promises. And this has been the cycle over the years. And that the only thing they hold on to, that they see and they hold on to, is that wrapper, that salt, and that spaghetti. So would you truly say that we should not take that wrapper, salt, and spaghetti just because of the hope or the promise that these people are going to give to us? Like, okay, if you take them, how do you then vote for your conscience? How do you vote your mind? How do you vote the right candidate? Yes, poverty has been weaponized. ActionAid is an anti-poverty agency, so whatever we do, we take side with the poor. We are very political when it comes to issues of working with the poor, inside with the poor. We are non-partisan. We're not concerned about which political party or not, but we're looking at poverty as a weapon. How has poverty fared? As at a year ago, it costs about 8,000 naira to make a pot of stew soup, 8,000 plus to make a pot of stew soup, according to the Nigeria Bureau of Statistics. And that figure today is 17,000 something from Nigeria Bureau of Statistics. So if you look at that figure, minimum wage has been fixed at 70,000. And of that minimum wage, only 20 states are currently implementing the 70,000 minimum wage. But even with the 70,000, and Nigerians spend between 50 and 70, depends on the statistics you are looking at, between 50 and 70% of their average earning on food alone. And food has got the highest level of inflation in the country. So it's further increases the level of poverty. And a poor person, by the time they are poor, you are able to say by the time you tell them this is how to go about it, they are willing to sell their morsel of bread sell their right for a morsel of bread. So they are willing to give up anything just to get a food on their table. As a result of all of this, that is why Nigerians are finding it difficult to come on the streets and hold their government accountable. Let's talk about accountability, flowing from your last conversation. If Nigerians hold their leaders accountable, just like Rotimi was also saying, if Nigerians hold their leaders accountable, then we will be producing the best of leaders that would make sure that power actually belongs to the people. If our elections are right, if the citizens come out and we hold the government accountable, and it has nothing to do with the citizens' ability or non-ability, but because of the level of poverty, they are not able to, instead of spending one day, that's daily bread, I'd rather go for my bricklayer work, I'd rather go for my daily work and get my 10,000 or 5,000 or 20,000 I'll get for that day, rather than coming out on a protest to hold the government accountable. And clearly, that is seen as weaponization of poverty. We have seen cases in different parts of the country where people say, oh, Rankadede, they greet you on all sorts. But because why are they doing that? They rather that you provide some level of succor to them, their family, and all that. Why are people concerned about my person in power? Why are people happy when somebody they know gets appointed into a position? It's because of the benefit. So because of weaponization of poverty, people have not passed the primordial sentiment, the primordial means, so survival sentiment. People have not passed that survival level. If Nigerians have gone beyond survival level, then you'll not be concerned about what the leader would give to you or what the appointed person would
Mr. Memedu, great points you've raised. Of course, the assessment continues, and we're going to be getting as many perspectives as possible. But what we're dealing with is the downside of the neoliberal economic policy, where the inequality gap is widening every other day, and some of these stopgap measures that has been brought by the government quite insufficient to put up a buffer in that sense. But I must thank you for your contribution. Andrew Memedu is the country director of Action Aid Nigeria. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, so from here we head to what you are saying across the social media and a couple of things. So let's get to what's happened in Akwa Ibom State. Akwa Ibom has been in the news for a lot of reasons, and especially when it had to do with the governor trying to defect. He's going to defect this month, I understand, sometime this month, officially, to perhaps just put in all the finishing touch. But something popped up the other day that had to do with a video of one of his daughters making some allegations, and he responded to that effect. Basically, the video was, the daughter was talking about she's not going to be a sacrifice, raising concern about how her mother died, as well as her brother. But when the governor was asked about this particular video that went viral, this is what he had to say.
We are in political times, and so you expect more of that. My family is intact. You can see everyone. And the event we're talking about happened immediately my wife passed last year. So why is it surfacing now? And why is it on the eve of a second-year anniversary that we're celebrating the milestone that we have achieved? This teaches me that there are detractors around, and so my family is intact. You can see that's Jane herself there. That's my daughter, that's the husband. So we have a good family. The pressure on the kids when they lose a loved one and could be traumatic, and we must know that. All I can appeal to the public is, please, they shouldn't bring back sad memories. It's enough that I've lost my wife, and I pray that they allow her peaceful soul to rest in peace, and don't try to, but I can't be distracted. I remain focused. I'll continue to serve Akwa Ibom people, and I don't wish what happened to me will happen to anyone else.
So that's Governor Eno, and you see the daughter right beside him. So perhaps this can bring closure.
Yeah.
Because again, there's the emotional bit of it.
Yeah,
For the
touched
family
by
as
that
well.
particular line when he talked about families should stay off limits when it comes to political conversation.
But just one more video, perhaps to cheer you up. Wife of former President Goodluck Jonathan, that's Patience Jonathan, has earned a Doctor of Philosophy degree in Psychology, Guidance and Counseling from Ignatius Ajuru University of Education in Rivers State. And there you see her jubilating. I think this means a lot to a lot of Nigerians on different levels.
So let's be clear, it's not an honorary doctorate.
Right?
So it's expected that she went to class, attended classes, did a PhD coursework, what do you call it, and defended her thesis, her project.
A lot of work for PhD. Yes. That's what's expected.
3 to 4 years of academic rigor. So Nigerians are reacting. Some are impressed, some are wondering, how did she do this? Given what they perceive to be her inadequacies in terms of her ability to express herself in English.
And I think that is the story here.
So that is
actually what we are also celebrating with her. I know there are lots of narratives, but you know, this is the same woman, according to a user, that people insulted and called an illiterate. She has now done a PhD. That's the African Circus on X. Grandma was used to discredit her husband, but here she is. So congratulations.
Congratulations.
Dame Patience Jonathan.
So however you take it, she's a graduate. She has a PhD. She has a PhD. However you take it,
so
whatever,
put a doctor in
whatever you think it is, she has a PhD. I'll leave it at that.
That's it.
That's it on the program as well. I'm Jeffrey Ozama. Bye-bye.
I'm Kayode Okikele. Sunrise Daily is next. Don't forget, do not be limited. Goodbye.